Please state your message.
Three-Eyed Frog presents The Heart of Ether.
I haven't even looked at my files since the other day. What matters is that most of the recordings have been backed up, and that was the goal. It's helped to clear up some space on my phone. Aiden promised to show me how Instagram works ASAP, not that I'm interested, but he wants me to follow him. It's the last thing on my priority list, though. Look, I don't know what to do about what I found. You know, the voicemails and the phone call. I still have no clue how they got on my laptop. Just another question to add to my ever-growing list, I suppose. Since when did my life become a fucking mystery story or whatever? I guess when my girlfriend went missing, that sounds like something you'd read on the back of a book. I'm trying to stay focused on work, even though there's so many other things on my mind. I returned that book Phoebe lent me. It really didn't do anything for me, but now I at least have a possible name for the thing in the forest. The folk. Phoebe seemed odd when I saw her again. She was pretty much the same, but she said she found something that would help her understand her grandmother's research. I told her that was great, and I asked her what she found, and she got tense at that and wouldn't answer me. Guess I shouldn't worry about it. She's entitled to her privacy, after all. Speaking of work, I have to leave for that. Wait, what's that smell? I stopped by the metaphysical store today after work. I thought, I don't know, I thought they might know something about weird magic forest creatures. That's their job, right? I thought about recording it, but the vibe of the whole place was weird. I just decided not to. Anyways, I walked in, and first off, the incense was really strong. There's music playing, like one of those 10-hour meditation sound videos. They had lots of statues, candles, crystals, some books, tarot decks, usual metaphysical store. The only other person in there was the clerk standing at the counter. I feel bad for not getting their name, actually. They were pretty much the physical embodiment of the shop's decor. They had short, bright orange hair with 2 small braids and a kind of warped pentacle tattoo on their arm. Lots of piercings. Also had a sheer piece of fabric somewhere between a scarf and a shawl wrapped around their shoulders. They definitely had their look down, which is admirable, I think. Anyways, they asked if I was new in town, and I said yes, and they nodded really slowly and said, "I can tell." And I asked, how? And they said, "You just have the aura. Like the Fool, You're just starting to get your footing here. It really shows, man." And I said, "Okay." And then there was a long silence. I didn't have to suffer for long because luckily they started small talk after that. They asked where I was staying, and I told them, and they nodded and said, "Bernard's house, right? Have you encountered any of the spirits yet? Because we have stuff for that, based off how much I saw him here. I actually think there's lots of spirits in that house. More than most people claim there are. It just gives off an evil sort of vibe. Have you cleansed it yet?" I said no, I had not, and that I came to talk about something else. Then asked if there were any creatures in the woods that they knew of. Then they went on a 10-minute long rant about the Fae folk and why you're not supposed to give them your name. I said, "No, I'm talking about a literal big creature made of dirt. Surely someone else has come in and asked about it." The clerk didn't say anything for a while. When they did, they said, "Look, man, that sounds like a you problem. Maybe you should come to one of our meditation classes. It would help you see things more clearly." I then pretended to look at amethyst points for a few minutes before awkwardly shuffling out. I know you were into magic and all that, so... Was your mom, kind of. I never got into it though, so I just left. I know this is off topic, but I was thinking about it earlier today. Do you remember right after we graduated? We were talking about the future, not in detail, but briefly. If only I'd known. It was only a few days before the incident. And about a couple of weeks before we planned on making our secret getaway. You told me someday you wanted to become an elementary school teacher. I laughed and I said, "Weren't you planning on studying psychology?" You said yes, but now you wanted to be a teacher. I said maybe you could compromise and study child psychology and become a therapist for little kids, but that wasn't good enough for you, no. You just had to be a teacher. I asked you why you wanted to change all of a sudden. It took you a while to answer, but when you did, you said you didn't know. Then you said that you would know the answer eventually. It would just take you some time to realize what the reason was. It's always how you thought of the world. You did things without always knowing the reason. You just had a gut feeling that it was what you had to do. I think about that a lot. I don't really have intuition like you do, but I wonder if that's why you left. Your intuition. If you had some higher purpose you just couldn't tell me about because you didn't even understand it yourself yet. I know it sounds silly. Hey, do you think Valencia was like that? I mean, I know he did his research for a long time, but he must have had some sort of dream or aspiration before that, right? What do you think happened to him to make him want to... I just realized something. I just went back to the metaphysical store. They knew Valencia. They called him by first name. Not only that, but before they said he went to the store. I can't believe I didn't notice that during the first conversation. I went back in, I walked back up to the clerk, and I got their name this time. It was Socks, and I asked them to tell me everything they knew about Valencia. They looked really weirded out by that, and they said, "I don't know. I didn't know the guy." And I said, "Well, didn't you say he came into the shop?" And they said, "Yeah, but I wasn't working here back then. I was a pretty frequent customer, and I saw him a couple of times, but the only one who was really working here at the time was my boss, Ruby." And then, when I asked to talk to Ruby, Socks said that she was on vacation because she had just had a baby. And even if she was in the shop, she hadn't actually been the owner when Valencia was alive. She'd just been an employee. I asked who had been the owner when Valencia was alive, and Socks said, "Seriously, man, what's your deal? It's kind of weird that you're super into this old dude who died. Like, do you want a spirit to come after you?" And I said, "No, but I think he knew something. You know, about my dirt monster I mentioned before, the one you said was a me problem. I just want to know if anyone in the shop knew about it." Socks then threatened to kick me out for freaking out the customers, and I pointed out that I was the only one there. I said that I wasn't trying to be threatening or rude, but that I thought there was something a lot bigger than normal witchcraft or whatever happening. I had to know what Valencia had gone in there for. There's a long pause, then Socks looked around, leaned in, again, no one else is there but me, and said, "Okay, so, like, I'm technically not supposed to tell you this because it drives away business and might get us in legal trouble. Just promise you won't tell anyone else I told you this, and don't go asking Ruby about it." I promised. I mean, I don't really count these recordings, right? They don't have to know about this. That I said Ruby wouldn't hear a peep from me, though, and I do intend to keep that particular promise. Then, still leaning in close and speaking quietly for whatever reason, I guess drama, they told me everything, and Rose, holy shit. Valencia wasn't practicing witchcraft or meditation or anything like that. I don't think so, at least, though Socks still thinks he was communicating with the dead. He was coming in to talk with the old owner, though, a woman named Lorelei Foster. Socks got their whole story from a combination of Ruby and various rumors, so there might be inconsistencies, but basically, they said that at first, it seemed like Valencia was helping Lorelei with something. Ruby supposedly saw him bring back papers and journals a couple of times, so maybe some of the research. However, one day, they apparently got into this big screaming argument in Lorelei's office. Valencia stormed out. He only came back one time after that, and when he did, he didn't seem too happy to be there. According to Ruby, Lorelei came out of her office to meet him, and all he said before leaving was some sort of vague warning. He told Lorelei not to do something, but Ruby didn't know what. There's more. Lots of this next part is speculation from Socks and others, but they said that Lorelei wasn't working alone. That part is actually certain. Lorelei definitely wasn't alone. It's what she did where the details get fuzzy. Lorelei was the supposed leader of some sort of group. Most people call it a coven. Some people think it was a cult. She needed Valencia's help because apparently the coven was trying to do something. Like, maybe some big ritual or spell or something. But why would they need Valencia's help with that, though? Whatever it was, by the end of it, Valencia did not want them to do it, so he stopped helping. Rumor has it that they did it anyways, though. Ruby wasn't part of the coven, but one night while closing up the shop, Lorelei came out and told her they were going to be doing something in the back room that night. She said Ruby should make sure everything was perfectly locked up and cleaned before leaving, and to do so as soon as possible. Ruby, as I'm sure you could guess, didn't stick around long, or so Socks claims. Nobody knows what happened that night. Some people reported hearing weird noises, maybe screams. Everything was different after that night, though. Slowly, all of the members of the coven started going missing. As time went on, Lorelei refused to show her face anywhere. Most days she stayed in her office and spoke through the door. When she did come out, she hid herself in baggy clothes and hoodies or even masks sometimes. And she refused to talk about the missing coven members. Of course, police interrogated her numerous times, but they never found any evidence against her that would give them the grounds to perform an arrest. These people just kept vanishing without a trace. No leads, no apparent causes, no DNA, nothing. Eventually, Lorelei was the only one left. Rumor has it she moved to a house on the outskirts of town with no one else around. Some people who drive past the house say it sounds like a zoo. Most people think that Lorelei's in there, but she never shows herself or answers the door. After that, Ruby took over the store, and now people try not to talk about it. There's lots of speculation, of course. Some people think Lorelei killed and ate all of her coven members, or just did a really good job at hiding their bodies. Others say that she managed to do actual magic and make them all disappear. I don't know what I think yet. I'm still trying to process it all. I do think that this all ties back to the research done by Valencia, though, and maybe even Phoebe's grandmother? I mean, why else would Lorelei need his help for performing some ritual? Actually, why did he suddenly become so opposed to it at the end if he was so willing to help at first? Do you think he knew what was going to happen to those people? This didn't give me any answers about the creature in the woods or the files on my computer or any of the crazy shit that's happened to me lately. It did give me plenty more questions, though. Great. Just what I needed. I'm going to go to bed soon, but I just wanted to record my thoughts. Because I've been thinking about Phoebe's grandmother, Dorothy. I know it's probably weird to call Valencia by his last name and Dorothy by her first name, but that's just how everyone I've talked to refers to them. Except for the people at the metaphysical store, apparently. I think it has something to do with how everyone viewed Valencia as some sort of weird investigator, but to a lot of people, Dorothy Wood was a friend. Anyways, Socks didn't say anything about Dorothy when talking about the whole Coven thing, which probably means she wasn't involved. It just makes me wonder, what was their dynamic? How much work was Valencia and how much was Dorothy? Did she do the writing while he did the field work? Well, now Valencia was rumored to be sort of a hermit. The Coven incident seemed to be an exception thus far, though. I have no idea how Lorelei even ties into this. I know it's kind of silly for me to be going back to them so much. Obsessing over 2 dead people I never met. I saw Dorothy's research, though. There was so much of it. Piles of journals, boxes, and boxes full of paper. She and Valencia had to have known about this, right? They'd be able to answer my questions. Well, maybe. They were so secretive they wrote in code, so I doubt they would be willing to just tell me this stuff if they were still alive. Are you kidding me? It's the yellow mold. This isn't even the first time I've seen it today. Right before I left for work, I found it by the back door. How the hell did it get up to my bathroom, though? Fine, I'll call a specialist. Should have done that a long time ago. Don't know why I let it get this far. Guess it's like me to ignore something and hope that makes it go away. Good night. God damn it.
Today's quote is, "I do know that for the sympathy of one living being, I would make peace with all. I have love in me the likes of which you can scarcely imagine, and rage the likes of which you would not believe. If I cannot satisfy the one, I will indulge the other." Mary Shelley in Frankenstein, 1818.
The Heart of Ether is a podcast made by Three-Eyed Frog Presents. It is written and produced by Val West. The voice of Irene Gray is Luka Miller. Music is produced by Luka Miller. To follow the show and find transcripts, you can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at Heart of Ether. Questions and comments can be emailed to us at heartofether@gmail.com. Want to help support the show? Rate and review us on iTunes and Podchaser, and talk about the show using #HeartofEtherPod. Thank you for listening.